You are listening to School of Talk. We are creating a world where every child experiences the power of a great teacher. We believe education is the answer. It has the power to conduct change, improve lives, unlock ideas, create opportunities, and build connections. It's the single greatest investment we can make today to create a better tomorrow. That's why we're on a mission to train, inform, and inspire educators around the world. Each week, we dive into a topic related to education, teaching, and learning. Whether you're an educator by trade or an educator by spirit, we've got something for you. Open up your mind and get ready to soak in some new learning. Class is in session.
Welcome back to the podcast. Today we're focusing on Saudi Arabia and the Vision 2030 and how it links to international education. And we're delighted to have Chris McKenzie all the way from Riyadh currently to share some of his experiences. Now, Chris, you've obviously been over in Saudi Arabia for a long time now. Maybe it would be good just to share with the audience exactly who you are, what you do, and then we can move it on from there.
Oh, wicked. Okay, hi, I'm Christopher McKenzie, or Chris McKenzie. I'm the academic director for Ajialuna Schools, which is a company of a group of schools in Saudi Arabia, of international schools and national schools. This is my 10th year in the kingdom. So I've been here since before the changes and during the changes, and hopefully I continue to be here throughout the changes. I'm very exciting times that we are currently living in. I've been with this school now for 5 years. I'm going into my 6th year this year. And I'm very delighted and excited about what's happening and what we're doing to contribute towards the improvements and the overall development of the kingdom.
Fantastic. And obviously 10 years, I guess it's changed significantly. Just we always see online, even in the last year or so, the amount of development that's been going on, not just in Riyadh, but a lot of other cities in Saudi. What's been your experience from 10 years ago looking back now? Is it completely different in terms of the cities and things?
Yeah. So from an objective point of view, when you're driving through the city of Riyadh, and I've traveled to Riyadh, Jeddah, Dammam, 3 major cities, the vibrant changes that are taking place, you're seeing things become alive. There's new building work taking place. There's a lot of entertainment happening, and it's just a lot more vibrant. And as I said, it's alive. However, what they've done is that they've retained the core element of the culture, which is something beautiful that we really like, and it's something that it's a challenge in any way to go through changes and retain that culture. But that's something that stayed the same, and it's been embedded in part of the changes from the beginning to the end. So that element, it hasn't changed. They've just managed to cleverly change everything surrounding that in terms of the vibrantness, entertainment, and just the society in general. But yeah, you can see the changes that have taken place over the 10 years. Definitely, it's a different place to where it is now to where we were 10 years ago.
Yeah, great. And a lot of that sort of investment, a lot of those changes is because of this Vision 2030. And obviously, maybe not everyone is aware of what Vision 2030 is. So we'll kick into sort of and cover how it relates to international education in a second. But at a general level, for let's say a dummy that's never heard of it before, what is Vision 2030?
Vision 2030, and I'm not a spokesman for Vision 2030, but I'm living here, I'm very excited for it, and I'm part of the contribution towards it. We say as leaders that it's important that you set that vision and you have that vision for either for an organization, for a school, and for a country. And the leaders of this country have put together this vision for 2030, this goal or a set of goals to ensure that the country itself becomes leaders on the world stage. And it's quite interesting what they've done, because they've used these goals to work towards and provide those steps towards becoming leaders of the world in Saudi, having Saudi Arabia being leaders of the world. They've looked at the cultural and entertainment initiatives. They've introduced more performing arts. They've added other aspects, promoted the culture a lot more, and added entertainment to enhance quality of life. They also have the economic diversification, which has allowed them to reduce, or they're aiming to reduce the reliance on oil, because we know that Saudi Arabia is the biggest export of oil in the world. That's where a lot of the revenue comes from in the country. But part of the Vision 2030 is to reduce that reliance and open up more fields of investment. A lot of privatization, investment, and small, medium-sized businesses supporting the local brand, the Saudi brand, and really making sure that they are investing in their people And one of the most important things of the 20 is that investment in their people, is that investment in Saudis themselves, the local population, ensuring that they have the skills required to be the best in the world. And so this Vision 2030 it encompasses all of these elements, and we're in 2024 now, and every year seeing the changes year on year, how things are getting better and how things are becoming a lot more vibrant. As I say, it's a key theme that's going to be running through this. And obviously, on the world stage, outside of Saudi Arabia, you're seeing these mega constructions taking place, these big projects, NEOM, the Red Sea project, the Green Line. And so we are in a place of change, in a state of change, and they're getting, each year it's becoming more closer and closer to reach those goals and to reach that vision of 2030.
Yeah, it's very exciting. And I went over, obviously, I met yourself back in February. And even obviously had expectations of what I was going to expect, but they even expanded beyond that, just particularly meeting schools as well. And we'll cover some of those points that you mentioned about the future projects, like the line, for example. But a lot of the 2030, of course, it's a long-term strategy. And if you can make the changes in education, then that goes a long way. So how does it relate directly to education? Because obviously here in the UK, for example, and outside of Saudi Arabia, a lot of the things we're seeing is the sports, the investment in sports, the investment in business and things, but we wouldn't necessarily understand the grand investment that's being put into schooling. So what are you seeing specifically there?
As you mentioned, you really have to be here to see and to realize what's happening. It's nice being outside and seeing the changes from an objective point of view, but once you're here and you're seeing the different places, a lot of the construction going on, that's when you really get a feel of those changes. And of course, as part of the changes and as part of that vision, education is fundamental. It's fundamental. Even if we look from the lens of entertainment and the other investments that are taking place, the education aspect of it is crucial because it's going to help with developing the skills that are needed to maintain those industries. It helps with ensuring that the more initiatives are taking place to build and expand and become creative as part of those industries to ensure that they're constantly becoming or constantly leading those changes and competing on a world stage. And we know that integration is important as it aligns with the goals of Vision 2030 because it helps to elevate the education system to meet the global standards. And this is one of the key aspects of the 2030 vision, as we know, to be on the world stage. Particularly in international schools, we know that they are using international schools or they're investing in international schools to help raise these standards and to incorporate the best practices and diverse curricula from all around the world. So education is a fundamental part of Vision 2030. And again, it's a very exciting time to be in education in Saudi Arabia.
I can just see from the way you're describing it, the passion that you have for it. And you've obviously been there a long time. And I found it quite interesting when speaking to schools over there and since virtually is a lot of the growth in schools is not just because they're expecting more expats to come over and internationals, but it's a big investment in the local students as well. I mean, some school groups that I spoke to, they envisioned like a 50-50 split between international students in the international schools and the rest are local students. Are you seeing that in your school group as well?
100%. We've gone from I'll give you just like rough figures, mostly expatriate students. And when we initially opened up in 2015, this particular school system, now 85%, up to 90% in some of our schools actually are from the local population. And they're all international schools, the ones that I'm speaking about. So we are seeing this change. It's not unique to Saudi Arabia in terms of the international school landscape. However, it is something new for Saudi Arabia, increasing the student population from the local population. And so we are seeing that in our schools. But at the same time, you picked up on it, part of the expansion is for expatriates as well, because they want to attract the best talent, the best skills from around the world. And by doing that, they need to ensure that they do have the best and most robust education system. But having said that, definitely 100%, international schools in particular are at the forefront of educating the local population and supporting the development to achieve the goals of 2030. That's from my point of view anyway.
Yeah. And that's encouraging because if you look back in, I don't know, UAE, for example, other big international school markets over the last 50 years or so, a lot of the growth come because of international expats coming over. But I do get a sense that it's slightly different here in that the kingdom's trying to make sure that every Saudi student is having a very good level education in line with those expatriates that are coming over and paying big fees to be in an international school.
Yeah, and even this year, we've seen the ETEC, the Evaluation or Training Committee, part of the evaluations that are done for international schools in Saudi Arabia. You can see the focus in the local population in their framework. You can see the expectations from the indicators that they're using to measure success. The focus is on developing the local population and ensuring that they're not forgotten through the development and increase in international schools. In fact, I'd say at the forefront of these developments, at the forefront of the impact of the positive changes from international schooling. Yeah.
Great. And with regards to the internationals and the expatriates coming over, have you seen a change in the last 10 years or the time period that you've been there in terms of who they actually are and where they're coming from?
Yes, it's funny you should ask that actually. Over the past 2 years, actually, we have seen an increase in my school in particular of Chinese students, actually. So
Okay.
from our whole system, yeah, there's been an increase in Chinese students enrollment, interest as well. We see an increase in Chinese families coming and asking about the school. So that has been quite an interesting development within itself. And I suppose that comes from the relationship between China and Saudi Arabia and making it stronger with trading, etc., etc. But yeah, there has been that change with it as well.
Yeah. And of course, part of your role is recruiting teachers as well for your schools. And schools all around the world are facing challenges with the global teacher shortage. I suppose you guys are in a good position because the salary packets that you're offering are sizable in comparison to a lot of other regions. But of course, salaries aren't the only reason why a teacher would want to apply to a particular school. How have your recruitment practices changed? I know you've got a very high number of teachers that you need to recruit every year. Certainly don't envy you
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
how have you seen the last few years change in terms of your recruitment, and what practices are you doing currently that are working?
Yeah, that's a good question as well. Very thought provoking. For us, this year, we are just shy of 150 new teachers and leaders coming over in our school system, which is quite a large number. When speaking with candidates, and we did a recruitment event in the UK, we've been to America, and we've actually done one locally as well. They want to be part of the change. They're hearing what's going on. They're hearing about the changes in education. They're hearing the growth. They're hearing the excitement. And really, they want to be part of the change. And I think this is the key driving factor for most of the candidates that are coming over to Saudi Arabia. Before, in the past, it would have been, what's the package? What's the salary like? That would have been the main driving factor. But now we're seeing a lot more of the motivation to come over here to be part of that change. And it helps with the excitement as well, because when they're here, they have the intrinsic attitude or the intrinsic motivation to help support the students to ensure that they are contributing towards the changes and towards the success. So this has been quite a key change in the candidates. Having said that, it's very important that we are attracting the best and that we are ensuring that the quality is maintained. And so there are checks in place, especially when it comes to safer recruitment, ensuring that we do the correct background checks, reference checks, have a look out for any suspicious traveling or working periods in their CV, many different things that are taking place. But it is important when you're working with that number of candidates to ensure that your systems are robust, they are efficient, and that they're doing the best to keep the kids safe, number one, and to attract the best in quality and the best in skills and experience.
Great. And there might be a lot of sort of teachers and educators listening into this. From your perspective as an experienced recruiter in a Saudi Arabia school group, what to you is a great teacher? Obviously, a lot of it comes down to qualifications, but would you say there's particular things that you look out for?
Yes, attitude, definitely attitude. We say to teachers when they apply when through the process that you are the best teacher, you're experienced, you have the best qualifications in that context that you are in. However, when you come to a new context, it's about understanding how to adjust that approach. It's about understanding how to understand the why behind how we do things here in Saudi Arabia. And so even though they could be the best teacher in their context, that necessarily doesn't transfer to Saudi Arabia. We always ensure that we look out for attitude, passion for teaching, and a care for children. These are some of the important factors that we look out for teachers. For me personally, I look for teachers who want to win. You can see it inside them that they really want their students to be the best. They want to know where the goals are, whether it's an external exam, whether it's an outside source, an outside entity coming in to give us an evaluation, anything. They want to know where the goal is, and they want to know, okay, I know where the goal is, and now I know how to get my students to reach that goal. So this is one of the key things that I look for when it comes to new candidates coming in.
Yeah, and it's obviously one thing having a good recruitment strategy, but it's nothing if you don't have a good retention strategy. And let's face it, Saudi Arabia is very different to a lot of the other parts of the world, particularly, let's say, if you're a candidate from America, from South Africa, from the UK, wherever it might be. And what do you do in terms of onboarding, supporting staff throughout their tenure at the school? And from your recent, let's say, the last 2, 3 years, the teachers that have joined, do they tend to stay?
Yeah, so for us in our system, we have an average tenure of around 3 to 4 years. So most of our teachers are with us for quite a long period of time. And we're quite proud of that, to be honest with you. We're quite a proud school system because of that retention rate. And I think some of that comes from the fact that we ensure that they have the best onboarding process. We take it slow, we break it down in chunks. This year, we're implementing a mentor system where those new candidates are coming over. They're going to be buddied up with an experienced teacher from Saudi Arabia, from Al Fursan International Schools, and they're going to be working with them on a daily, weekly basis to help them assimilate better into the school system. Another thing is ensuring that they're here early. Just after Corona, we did make a mistake of bringing the teachers on time with the rest of the teachers that were returning. And so this didn't really help us and that happened in previous years as well, to be honest with you. It didn't really help us to have the best of years. Last year, we changed that and we said we want to bring those teachers in a lot earlier. So a week before the returning teachers come, they assimilate, they get used to the environment, the culture, to the best of their ability. We're able to spend one-to-one time with them, sorting out their documentation. And so this is the key point of when those new teachers come over, to make sure that from day one that they know they have the support, they know that we're with them, we're holding their hand. Even though our expectations are high, we're with them. If they're not exceeding and they're not meeting those expectations, neither are we as a school system. So I think all of these elements really help to keep that retention rate at the stage that it's at. I would say as well that even though there are local schools that tend to offer better packages than us, we have those teachers, even though that they have the opportunity to go and explore other schools, they like to stay with us. They like the culture that we set up in the schools. And so this is something, again, that I'm really proud of. And I'm proud of my team as well. It's not just from my effort myself, but it's part of a team effort, a collaborative effort from across all of the schools and the school systems.
Great. And it sounds like you've built a good culture there. And we certainly advise at Teachway schools when they are asking us about onboarding and retaining teachers. And I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's taking a different strategy between your local teachers and your international teachers. You can't just have the same strategy. And the point there, the mentorships for any, particularly a brand new teacher coming over to Saudi for the first time, having that local teacher to help support them goes really far in terms of their experience in those early weeks. And let's face it, if the teacher has a poor experience in the first 3, 4 weeks, then already in their head, they're thinking, this is a short-term placement for me.
Exactly. And they often do come over. They're adults, but they're scared. There's a sense of anxiety more times than we'd probably expect. They come over, it's their first time, it's a new country, it's very hot in the middle of the summer. So they have to adjust to that as well. There's a lot of different things, new systems. So yeah, we have to anticipate this. We have done so, and year on year we're getting better, improving systems, reflecting on what we can do to become better, and implementing that for the following years. Again, this is just part of our onboarding strategy, and to ensure that we have happy teachers.
Mm. And linking back to the recruitment practice, you mentioned that you have face-to-face fairs. Now, what we've certainly seen, and obviously Teachway is a digital approach to recruitment, and there's many ways to skin a cat. It's not just that one approach wins over the others, but certainly what we have seen from other schools is a decline in face-to-face events. But for you, it's been quite successful.
Yeah, we was really successful actually, especially in the UK, because you can't beat face to face. Human interaction is a really key element to really get to know someone. You can do it online. You can have those interviews online, and a lot of our interviews are online. I'd say from the face to face, from 150 teachers, from the top of my head, around 60 of them were from face to face interviews. So half of them were online, but half of them were face to face. And definitely that face to face interaction that we get as leaders, as interviewers, it really does give you a deep insight into the character of the person that you're interviewing, and it really does help you to really grasp who they are and what they're about. Not to a full extent, because of course you're always going to have outliers, you're always going to have situations where what you didn't expect, but definitely the face-to-face really helped. And it was only this year, actually, that we decided to go for the face-to-face interviews. And that was just for the fact that we wanted to have another step of quality assurance for our teachers that are coming in.
Great. And but of course, to get that sort of traffic, to get people to the fairs, you do use online platforms as well and have a strong
Yeah,
digital presence. How
yeah.
has your experience gone with the platforms that you're using?
I'm going to tell you the truth. Teacher Way has been amazing. 100%. It's really been amazing. Really grateful for being as part of Teacher Way. In fact, all of the leadership team that we signed on this year, they came from the Teacher Way platform, which has been
Oh wow.
huge help for us. Aside that, there are other platforms that we are using. They've been a big help for us as well. Social media as well, LinkedIn, up. You really have to cast the net wide when you're looking at filling 150 spaces. You can't just rely on one channel. And one of the other key areas that we do use is referrals as well. So
Yeah.
we say to our current staff, we have about 400, 500 international staff and teachers and leaders. And so we say to them, if here's a referral, we give you a referral bonus. But usually if they know the person, it's already like that buddy system that we've created this
For
year.
sure.
And they can have that one-to-one with them. They help them, they hold their hand throughout the process. So that's been quite beneficial as well. But definitely, as you mentioned, echoing that online presence, ensuring that you've cast that net wide to get as much attention as possible.
Yeah, and even the referral scheme that you mentioned, it almost seems too obvious to be true, but I don't think many schools are actually really having a strategy with their current existing teachers to try and use them to because everyone has a wider network, right? So using them to try and get referral teachers. And also the social media, again, it's a small win that goes a long way. If you're not sort of posting pictures, and it could be anything, even videos of your sports day, the projects that the students are getting on with, once they're online, a teacher could interact with that content in 5 years' time and then be attracted to applying, or they might have a doubt in their head, but just by looking at your culture fit that's evident on social media goes a really long way as well.
Yeah, and a lot of our teachers, they do go on social media, on our social media accounts, as you said, to see what our school's promoting, what do we value, because if you promote something, it means that you're valuing it. And we do get a lot of feedback from candidates after they've gone on our social media. It's been quite a bit, it's been a lot positive, the feedback that's coming back to us. But again, it's the presence that the schools have on social media that provides candidates, in particular, with an insight into our culture and what we do value. Yeah, you are correct. Yeah.
Yeah, great. And touched on internal competition within Saudi. Obviously, there's tons of school groups heading there, opening schools left, right, and
Yeah.
center. Even they're planning to open schools in cities that haven't even been built yet. It's quite crazy. How do you need to approach that? Do you do sort of competitor analysis to see what's going on? And things are changing very quickly. So I guess it's a continuous process, right?
Yeah, to an extent, international schooling, it's market driven. It's a business. It's the private entities that are there for profit to an extent, because we are working in education. So there's a lot of boundaries that are present as part of that. But yeah, one aspect of the business side is to ensure that research is done or carried out on the local competition, what's out there, what's being offered. From what I understand, this year alone, in Riyadh alone, there's 6 new schools opening up. From what I understand, I was at a conference a couple of weeks ago, and it was mentioned, and this was mentioned. A couple of them I'm aware of, and then in actually the same conference that I attended, there was a company that mentioned, in order to keep up with the influx of population coming to Riyadh, and the new students and new population of children, we need around 7 or 8 international schools a year to open up for the next 5, 6, 7 years, something along these lines. It is growing. Competition is becoming tougher, so to speak. But we do our best to ensure that we maintain quality. We stay calm, cool, collected. We let our work speak for us, and the quality of our education speak for us.
Definitely. And we work with, or we have traditionally worked with a lot of schools in the UAE since the start of Teachway 20 years ago, and visiting them, speaking with them, scared of Saudi Arabia now, because let's face it, a lot of teachers that in the past have been attracted to the UAE because they offer big salaries, big packages. And now suddenly Saudi Arabia is here offering potentially, 30% more on top of that. So even now the UAE, who are pretty much top of the pile, certainly on a salary scale, and traditionally are now having to compete with you guys,
Yes, and it's something that we're seeing as well. Teachers that are coming from the UAE to Saudi
right?
Arabia. Obviously, as you mentioned, we're able to have better packages. The cost of living, in particular compared to Dubai as well, is quite low,
Yeah.
from what I understand, the rent and the cost of living. And so these are some of the things that are attracting those teachers to Saudi Arabia. And then from an objective, from an outside perspective, when you're looking into the Middle East, we are becoming quite a lot more competitive when it comes to, or attractive when we're comparing to the UAE, which, as you said, traditionally was the number one destination for, I wouldn't say the number one, but it was a popular
Yeah.
destination for expat teachers. But again, yeah, we're catching up. We're getting a lot more interest. We're attracting a lot more teachers. And you mentioned about the recruitment issues that are happening around the world, especially for education and for teachers. From my own perspective, from my own experience, from this year alone, I'm seeing the opposite, actually. I'm seeing more teachers wanting to come over to the Middle East, in particular to Saudi Arabia. I'm seeing it easier to have a larger selection of teachers that we want to select, that we want to choose from. Teachers are coming over, they're doing interviews, and we are very picky. Even though we need like quite a large number, we are quite picky. And as I said, we're able to do that because of the influx. Whether that's is sustainable or not, I'm not sure. Whether it's because there's a cycle, or there's a wave coming, or I don't know. But at the moment, things seem to be quite positive.
Yeah,
Teaching.
and a large part of that's just because of all the exciting things that's happening in Saudi right now. And you mentioned a few of them at the start. So let's turn a bit more to the future. Some of those projects that you mentioned, obviously Neon the Line, they sound really exciting. What's your sort of future outlook in terms of international schools, but also Saudi as a general level?
It's going to be up there on the stage. It's going to be up there at the top, 100%. I'm seeing from on the ground, I'm seeing achievement after achievement, milestone after milestone, announcement after announcement, investment after investment. They continue on this trajectory. Definitely, they're going to be on the world stage as a key player. And it's, as I said, it's exciting to be part of it, part of the success, and part of that achievement. It is going to be quite difficult to choose between where you want to be, because traditionally you had Riyadh, Jeddah, and then Dammam. But now with all these mega projects going on, as an educator uh, who has that choice now of these different cities to live in Saudi Arabia, it's going to be quite difficult from that sense. But again, these projects that are taking place, we are seeing the bricks being laid, the foundations being built, and we're looking at those plans, and some of them they're catching our eye. That one looks quite interesting. And if you go there and you have a look, especially Neon, especially the Red Sea project as well, it is quite an exciting thing, and it is attractable as well. It's quite attractive when you're looking at different places to work and to live.
Definitely. The line, I've been looking into the line. That seems incredible. But hey, I suppose a big question we see sometimes in the news over here in the UK that, yes, the groundwork's been made or the foundation have been made, but the question is, can it actually, the plans are massive and grand, but will it actually happen to the extent that this sort of forecast? I suppose that's a big question. But from your perspective, from what you can see, it seems like it's all real and legit and it's going ahead.
Yeah. One thing for myself, I trust the leadership. The
Brilliant.
leadership of this country, they're strong. They're making wise decisions. If something doesn't go ahead, or they feel that it's not going to be as grand as what was initially planned out, if they're going to scale it down, they're going to scale it down. But that essential aspect of the excitement and the achievement of those particular projects, you're not going to see that diminish. It may not be as grand in terms of the size of it. It may not be as grand in terms of the location, but it will maintain that level of excitement. It will maintain that level of attracting the best and developing the best as well. So this is something that definitely I trust the leadership in that sense. Yeah.
Yeah, so exciting. And anyone thinking about moving to Saudi, it sounds like a great time to be there. So there's no doubt there's a lot of attractions there for teachers and other industries as well. But Chris, I said I'll take half an hour of your time. We've gone just over that, but I really appreciate that. Some really insightful points there made. I know it's coming towards the end of the term now, and it's very hot in Saudi. So you're going to be heading back to the UK for a period. So enjoy your trip back, and hopefully we'll catch up face to face next time I'm in Saudi later in autumn.
I'm looking forward to it, and thanks for the opportunity. It's been wonderful to speak about something that I'm passionate about and excited about. I appreciate it.
Perfect. All the best, Chris. Nice to catch up.
Thank you for listening to this episode of School of Talk. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure you subscribe to the podcast. If you loved today's episode, share this out with a friend. Class is dismissed.